Zak Bagans built an empire chasing ghosts, but now it's his own demons haunting him. His high-profile relationship with Holly Madison collapsed in scandal after she accused him of cheating with not one, but allegedly up to 10 women. From shady dating app profiles to jaw-dropping TikTok confessions, the receipts are piling up. And as more women step forward, old rivals like Nick Groff hint that this is only the beginning. But one detail about Zak's private life, something Holly herself revealed, will shock even his biggest fans. Stay tuned as we uncover why Zak Bagans may finally have no choice but to say he's sorry. In the summer of 2019, fans were stunned to learn that Holly Madison, former Playboy star and reality TV personality from The Girls Next Door, had begun dating Zak Bagans, the eccentric frontman of Ghost Adventures. The romance sparked after Holly visited Zak's haunted museum in Las Vegas, a building filled with cursed relics, occult artifacts, and infamous objects tied to death and tragedy. What began as a chance encounter turned into an unlikely love story. The glamorous ex-playmate and the paranormal investigator known for taunting spirits in abandoned prisons and haunted mansions. The news immediately made headlines, partly because it seemed so improbable. Holly had just come out of a divorce and was raising her children in Las Vegas. Zak, meanwhile, was at the peak of his career as a paranormal entertainer, hosting Ghost Adventures, a show already 18 seasons strong, and operating his haunted museum, which had become a tourist hotspot. To many, the pairing felt like opposites colliding, yet insiders claimed sparks flew almost instantly. Still, the relationship was curiously private from the start. Unlike Holly's highly publicized romances of the past, Zak rarely acknowledged her in interviews or on social media. They were occasionally spotted together in Las Vegas, but joint photos were rare. Holly once even defended Zak in comment sections, jumping in to defend him when critics like Nick Groff or Dakota Layden clashed with his reputation. At that time, she was the supportive girlfriend, someone who believed in him and wanted the world to see the good she saw. That early silence, however, would later cast a shadow. Fans would point out that by never going public, Zak could maintain the illusion of being single. Some women now allege that when they met him, often through the haunted museum, he'd insist he never hangs out with anyone, creating the manipulative impression they were special. What began as a romance fueled by mystery would, years later, be revealed as a relationship haunted by secrecy, deception, and betrayal. In hindsight, the warning signs were always there. To understand why this scandal landed like a bomb, you first have to look at Zak Bagans' persona. By the late 2000s, Zak wasn't just another TV host. He was the undisputed rock star of paranormal entertainment. Since 2008, he had been the face of Ghost Adventures, leading his crew into haunted locations across America. His black-clad aesthetic, heavy jewelry, dramatic narration, and willingness to yell at spirits created a character who felt both edgy and untouchable. To millions of fans, Zak was more than an investigator. He was a fearless showman who lived and breathed the supernatural. The brand extended beyond television. In 2017, he opened the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, a sprawling attraction filled with notorious items like the Dybbuk box, Dr. Kevorkian's death van, and even artifacts tied to murderers. Visitors described it as part tourist trap, part occult shrine. Zak leaned into the aura of danger and mystique, branding himself as the man unafraid of darkness. And it worked. People flocked to him, both for his ghost hunts and for his charisma. But that carefully crafted persona came with whispers. Former collaborators like Nick Groff had parted ways under cloudy circumstances. Rumors of arrogance, power struggles, and controlling behavior followed Zak behind the scenes. Still, those whispers never truly touched his empire. To the public, he remained the fearless paranormal star, with millions tuning in each week to see what horrors he would face next. What made the scandal so devastating was the gap between his image and his reality. Holly Madison would later reveal that while Zak publicly claimed his biggest fear was having children, he even tweeted it once, he privately pressured both her and a previous girlfriend to get their tubes tied. Fans also learned that while Zak posed as mysterious and disciplined, he was allegedly using dating apps during during his relationship. On those apps, his profile said he was not sure yet about kids, a contradiction that underlined his manipulative double life. The man who once convinced fans he could stare down demons was suddenly being accused of acting like one in his own personal life. His silence about Holly, once seen as privacy, was now being reframed as a cover that allowed him to juggle multiple women without accountability. The mystique had protected his brand for years, but as revelations poured out, it turned into a weapon against him. From the outside, Zak Bagans and Holly Madison looked like a stable couple. Private, yes, but solid. But Holly herself later admitted their 6-year relationship was very off and on. That phrase wasn't an exaggeration. The two split multiple times, with their first breakup around 2021. They reconciled in 2023, and Holly even credited Zak with being supportive when she received her autism diagnosis, calling him understanding and emotionally available. To her, Zak seemed like someone who accepted her entirely. But beneath those reassurances, trouble brewed. Holly revealed their final year together was very, very tumultuous. Breakups weren't uncommon, but this one felt different. In March 2025, Holly announced on her podcast that the romance was over for good. It was the first time she emphasized that finality, and fans quickly noticed a sign that set this breakup apart from the others. For the first time ever, Zak and Holly unfollowed each other on social media. To Holly's co-host and best friend, Bridget Marquardt, this was the proof the split was real. "That's when you know it's serious," Bridget commented. But while Holly was still outwardly civil, she was already beginning to learn things she hadn't known before. Suspicious screenshots of Zak's dating app profiles had started to land in her inbox. Women were reaching out, some cautiously, others with blunt details. Holly stayed quiet, possibly weighing what to do with this flood of disturbing revelations. Meanwhile, Zak maintained his public silence. He never mentioned Holly in interviews, never acknowledged the relationship officially, and never addressed the breakup. At the time, Holly hadn't yet exposed what she was learning, but the disconnect was glaring. For years, she had defended Zak publicly, commenting on videos, standing by him when controversies with Nick Groff or Dakota Layden flared up. Now, Holly was learning she had defended someone who may have been lying to her the entire time. The cracks in their storybook romance were no longer private arguments. They were about to explode into full-blown scandal. After Holly's announcement of the breakup, fans initially thought it was just another chapter in their on-and-off saga, but observant followers picked up on subtler cues. Holly grew quieter online, posting less and keeping her tone measured. Zak, on the other hand, carried on as though nothing had changed, promoting ghost adventures, pushing content from the haunted museum, and ignoring the topic of Holly completely. That silence began to look suspicious. Why wouldn't he even acknowledge a 6-year relationship ending? Meanwhile, rumors swirled. Holly hinted she had discovered Zak was on dating apps during their relationship, a discovery she later admitted was a big part of the reason we broke up in the first place. Screenshots circulated showing his active profiles. This contradicted his carefully curated image. The man who once said on Twitter that his biggest fear was having children, but who listed "not sure yet" under the kids section on dating apps to keep his options open. Fans began to wonder if the ghost hunter's private life was far more deceptive than his public persona let on. Then came Holly's chilling tweet. "All this information I'm finding out is so disturbing." It was vague but ominous, and it set social media alight with speculation. Paranormal fans dissected the post, trying to piece together what she meant. The most telling reaction came from within Zak's own circle. Dakota Layden, a paranormal TV figure who had once worked closely with Zak, retweeted Holly's words with nothing but a set of side-eye emojis. To fans, that was a bombshell. Dakota's cryptic post suggested he knew something, and that Holly's accusations weren't baseless. The gossip intensified when anonymous women on tea apps claimed Zak would would bring them to his haunted museum, turn off the lights, and ask if the spirits approved of them. The bizarre pickup tactic was so absurd it sounded like a joke, but multiple women alleged he had used it. The story went viral, feeding the image of Zak as manipulative and cringeworthy in equal measure. At this stage, Holly hadn't dropped her biggest revelations yet, but the stage was set. The silence, the screenshots, Dakota's side-eye, and the whispers from women were painting a picture that was about to explode into the public sphere. In May 2025, Holly would finally put it all out there, and what she revealed would shock even the fans who already suspected Zak Bagans was hiding something. On May 10, 2025, Holly Madison shattered her silence. What fans thought was just another breakup turned into a scandal that set the paranormal world on fire. Holly took to Instagram and, over the image of a serene swimming pool, unleashed a revelation no one saw coming. "It's a perfect day for me, and not my ex, who I just found out was cheating on me with at least 3 other girls. Never too late to find out." Lol, the bluntness of her words, punctuated by that chilling lol, cut through the screen. What happened next was like watching a dam burst in real time. Holly continued updating her stories as messages poured in. Within hours, the number of women allegedly involved shot up to 4, then 5. By the end of the night, she announced the count had reached 7. The next morning, it jumped again. The number is up to 10 women with receipts now, for those keeping track. Alongside the statement, she posted a cheeky photo of Costco with the caption, "Some people were cheating in bulk." The dark humor struck a nerve and immediately went viral. This wasn't vague gossip anymore. It was an accusation of systemic betrayal spanning years. Holly explained on TikTok that she had only just started piecing things together, despite being with Zak for 6 years. "Over the 6 years we were together, he cheated on me with like 10 people. At least that's where the count is right now. I'm sure there's probably so many more." She shared that one of the catalysts for their breakup had been discovering Zak's active dating app profiles. Someone even sent her a screenshot showing his profile live after their split. The irony? Zak once told fans on Twitter that his biggest fear was having children, but on his dating app profile, under the question about kids, he listed "not sure yet." Holly also exposed how Zak had pressured her, and a previous girlfriend, to consider getting their tubes tied. She remembered confronting him, "Why don't you just get a vasectomy?" His response? Silence. The revelation added a layer of control and misogyny that shocked fans who had only known him as the bravado-filled ghost hunter. As her posts spread, support poured in. Celebrities like Trisha Paytas commented, "I couldn't imagine cheating on literally the perfect woman." Holly replied with pink heart emojis, visibly touched by the solidarity. Fans who had once watched her defend Zak online were now rallying behind her, horrified at the scale of his alleged deception. What Holly had done was more than expose a cheating boyfriend. She detonated Zak Bagans' carefully crafted image. And within hours, women who claimed to be part of the story began to come forward, some with receipts that left little room for denial. Once Holly opened the floodgates, the stories came fast. Women began messaging her directly, providing proof that they too had been involved with Zak during the years he was with Holly. According to Holly, many had major receipts, text threads with Zak's phone number, photos from inside his gated neighborhood, and even parking passes, proving they'd been to his house. It wasn't just a rumor mill anymore. It was a patchwork of overlapping timelines, each adding up to the same devastating conclusion. Zak Bagans had been leading a double life. The most viral piece of evidence came from TikTok. A paranormal content creator known as @Phantomet posted a 5-minute video recounting her experience with Zak in early 2023. She explained that after she posted an EVP from Zak's haunted museum, he slid into her DMs. At first, she assumed it was a fan interaction, but then he invited her for a private meeting. He told her this was super out of the ordinary for him, making her feel special. She agreed, and what began as a handshake like a business meeting quickly turned into something far more personal. Phantomet revealed the manipulative tactics Zak used. He emphasized how rare it was for him to hang out with anyone, creating the illusion that she was the only woman in his orbit. But later, she realized Holly was still very much in the picture at the same time. When she confronted Zak about Holly, he allegedly freaked out, grew irate, and denied everything, telling her to mind her own business. She cut things off soon after, but the damage was done. In hindsight, she discovered she and Holly had both been seeing him on the same days. Her testimony aligned perfectly with Holly's claims. She also confirmed she knew at least 9 other women with similar stories, all armed with proof, and she wasn't the only one. Gossip apps lit up with accounts from women who described the same cringeworthy ritual. Zak would bring them to his haunted museum, turn off the lights, and ask if the spirits approved of them. The story spread quickly, painting Zak as manipulative at best, laughably absurd at worst. Phantomette closed her TikTok with words that struck a chord. Holly's a good woman. She did nothing wrong by finding out about all this. I did nothing wrong by telling my story. The only one who needs to face himself here is Zak. One day, he'll realize he fumbled Holly Madison. By this point, the scandal wasn't just about infidelity. It was about manipulation, secrecy, and a pattern of deception. And just when it seemed the story couldn't get darker, a ghost from Zak's own past stepped out of the shadows with a chilling warning that hinted there was much more to come. As Holly's revelations spread, the paranormal community braced itself. Zak Bagans' silence was deafening, but others were not so quiet. Enter Nick Groff, former Ghost Adventures co-star and once Zak's right-hand man. Fans remember Nick as the calm, steady investigator who helped anchor the early seasons of the show. But his sudden departure in 2014 sparked years of speculation about feuds and bad blood. Now, in the wake of Holly's accusations, Nick stepped out of the shadows with a message that shook the fanbase. That's just scratching the surface. He's been doing this for years. It's much darker. I've tried to warn people. Nick didn't elaborate, but he didn't have to. His words were enough to ignite a firestorm. What did much darker mean? Was Nick hinting at more betrayals, or something even more sinister about Zak's personal and professional life? Fans began revisiting old interviews where Nick subtly hinted at toxicity behind the scenes. They remembered whispers that Zak allegedly sabotaged careers, controlled narratives, and even blackballed colleagues who crossed him. Now, with Holly's cheating scandal fresh in everyone's mind, those whispers no longer seemed like baseless grudges. They seemed like puzzle pieces falling into place. Adding to the tension was Dakota Layden, once Zak's protege, who posted cryptic side-eye emojis in response to Holly's so disturbing tweet. It was a subtle move, but for insiders, it was confirmation. Dakota knew something, and he wanted fans to know he believed Holly. Between Nick's ominous words and Dakota's cryptic shade, it looked like the walls were closing in on Zak from every direction. The revelations painted a picture not just of a man cheating on his partner, but of a pattern of manipulation stretching back years. For fans, it raised uncomfortable questions. If Zak could lie to Holly, if he could mislead multiple women, then what else might he have fabricated? Could his entire brand, his ghost hunts, his evidence, his carefully cultivated persona be part of the same deception? Nick Groff's warning was a dagger because it came from someone who knew Zak better than most. It implied that the scandal wasn't the end of the story, but only the beginning of a reckoning long overdue. And for Zak Bagans, the reckoning was arriving in real time. By now, Zak Bagans' once unshakable image was in freefall. Holly's posts had gone viral. TikTok creators were dissecting Phantomette's testimony, and T-apps were lighting up with stories of women who had their own encounters with Zak. The haunted museum that once symbolized his empire became the butt of internet jokes. Memes mocked the spirits-approved pickup line, while reviewers left sarcastic comments like, "Great date spot if you like being one of 10. The fallout hit hardest among his fans. Zak had built a brand on credibility within the paranormal world. Love him or hate him, people tuned in because they believed he was serious about his work. But if he could lie to Holly Madison for 6 years, if he could juggle multiple women while presenting himself as single, How could anyone trust his integrity on screen? The scandal didn't just tarnish his private life, it cast a shadow over his professional career. And still, Zak remained silent. No statement, no denial, no apology. That silence, once a tool for building mystique, now looked like cowardice. Fans grew restless, demanding answers. Some defended him, saying Holly was bitter, but as more receipts piled up, texts, screenshots, overlapping timelines, the defenders grew quieter. Silence in the face of a cheating scandal might be survivable, but silence while your ex is presenting 10 women with receipts made it look like there was nothing left to deny. Meanwhile, Holly emerged as the sympathetic figure. Fans praised her bravery for speaking out and standing up for herself after years of defending Zak online. She had fought for him against critics, only to learn he was allegedly betraying her behind her back. Her sharp humor, like the Costco bulk cheating jab, resonated with people who saw her reclaiming her voice after being manipulated. By late May 2025, Zak's empire was visibly shaking. The Haunted Museum faced ridicule, his fan base fractured, fellow paranormal investigators distanced themselves, and industry insiders whispered that networks were quietly monitoring the scandal, wary of how much further it could spiral. Zak Bagans, the man who once projected dominance and control, was suddenly a ghost of himself, haunted not by demons, but by his own actions. The question now wasn't whether Zak Bagans' reputation had taken a hit, it was whether he could ever recover. And for many fans, the answer was already clear. The ghost hunter had finally been caught by his own lies. As the scandal deepens, one question remains. Will Zak Bagans ever apologize? Holly's accusations, TikTok testimonies, and even warnings from former co-stars have left his reputation in ruins. Yet, Zak has stayed silent, a choice that once built mystique but now fuels outrage. Fans want accountability, not shadows. Until he faces the truth, the ghost hunter may remain haunted, not by spirits, but by himself.